The Celtics Talk Podcast is presented by 24autogroup.com. 11 locations across New England.
All right, extension-loving Brad Stevens strikes again. This time, it's locking up Jrue Holiday reportedly on a 4-year, $135 million extension. Couple big takeaways right off the top. One, Celtics have pretty much secured their investment. Now, you think about they gave up Robert Williams and Malcolm Brogdon and first-round picks to make the deal to bring Jrue Holiday in. There was a risk that it could be as little as a year. Drew's now taken that option year off the table and extended at a number that I have to admit, I guess that'd be my number 2 on the takeaway list. The number that it comes in, average annual value of $33.8 million, I actually think is a little bit lower. There does seem to be some bit of compromise here. Drew's going to take a couple $1 million off of next season's salary, which was going to be about $37.5 million before bonuses, which might have kicked it up to $39 million. Celtics can use that money to help fund a roster that is becoming very, very expensive very quickly. And I guess that's the third takeaway here. Celtics, when you think about Jaylen Brown's Supermax, will hit the books this year. Peyton Pritchard's extension kicks in next year. You've got Jason Tatum will sign probably the richest contract in basketball, and that won't kick in for another year after this. But then there's a Derek White extension to navigate, and so you just start thinking about it, and the Celtics are becoming very, very expensive now. They've gotten deals done with both Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis that are pretty palpable, that will allow you to at least keep this core together for the next, we'll get through, probably get into next year. It also depends on what happens this postseason, but you have flexibility in terms of trying to get off that money. I just think, you probably got if things would have to go bad to start looking to get under that second apron and try to give yourself ways to navigate this roster. But the most important thing is that they get the deal done. And now you go into the summer with a little bit more confidence. You're not looking at a situation like in 2019 when Al Horford was able to opt out of that final year and took the money down in Philadelphia and kind of left you scrambling to compensate. Like I said, I think this gives Jrue some peace of mind as well. Not only is he secure going into the playoffs, but you start thinking about Team USA over the summer. He's protected long-term with that contract and can sort of go full go into that event coming off whatever happens in the Celtics offseason. But as I kind of started this video, Brad Stevens just loves extensions. We used to joke all the time. Danny Ainge was not a fan of extensions. Well, Brad, since he's taken over 2+ seasons here, Al, Kristaps, Jaylen, Pritchard, Jrue, Rob, Josh Richardson, Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, and Derek White are up next. And Brad really loves kind of getting those pieces and getting them locked up long term and takes some of the guesswork out of their mind, lets them focus on the task at hand. And let's face it, every little bit of energy you can put towards that quest for Banner 18, especially considering how the team feels right now about its chances, is for the best. So one more thing, another checkbox checked here before the Celtics hit the postseason with Jrue Holiday's extension finished up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into a very special episode of the Celtics Talk Podcast here on the NBC Sports Boston Podcast Network, celebrating 43 years of excellence with Mike Gorman.
Already energy level is 10 over here. It's about 3 over here.
All right, you and Scal just got done taping. I'm going to try not to ask Mike all the same questions that he just got. And
I'll tell you if you do.
So bear with me.
Yeah.
But we do have to start big picture.
Okay.
43 years. What does that number mean to you when you hear it?
It's incredible because I was talking to Scal on air on what we just did, and I said, how long have you been with the team? And I think he's going to say 4 years, 5 years. He says 12. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So, I mean, I went the first 15 years on one-year contracts. And so I never knew whether when I did a game, it wasn't my last game I was going to do. And it seemed that there was a real movement inside of the different organizations that came here. Everybody had their own guy that they wanted. Prism of Philadelphia, where they were the first ones to come in. But then Fox came in, Sports Channel came in. They all had their guys who wanted to do it. And I'd hear about, here's this guy coming in, he's good, he's going to be taking the job from you. And then all of a sudden, Tommy would step up and say, I didn't like working with him. Tommy was great. Tommy bailed me out a bunch of times and kept my career going until he finally got a 2 or 3 year contract. But yeah, so what does the 43 mean to me in terms of a number? I can't believe it's gone by this quickly. I mean, the 80s are a blur to me because I didn't have that much to do with the players. The 90s were a blur to me because we were awful most of the time. And then 2008 comes along and everything's great again. Again, these decades went by more like they were months. So I wish I could have something profound to say about that, but I don't.
This last season has gone by way too fast.
Yeah,
way too fast.
I guess the thing is, you can cut this, guys, if you take a vote and say,
nope.
I don't believe he said this. See, I don't think of myself as old. I don't feel old. I don't want.
You don't look old. You don't do anything old.
Yeah, I don't know, but you looks sometimes. But I don't think of myself as old. So that was never a factor when someone said, "You've been doing this for 30 years." I'm like, "Yeah, why? I could probably do another 10." The way I feel right now. And the only reason I'm really
careful, we'll hold you to that.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I'm walking away right now is, again, I don't want to sound egotistical in the whole thing, but I wanted to leave probably closer to the top than I was to the bottom. And that was a poke at me to go. And the other thing is I have a granddaughter. And I want to see, she unfortunately lives in Scottsdale, Arizona, which makes it hard to go with a house for dinner. And so I'm going to have to go out and spend some time with her. But I'm doing that because I want to do that. I don't want to miss her growing up. I want to see the milestones as they come. I don't want the one girl who could barely crawl when I was out there in December, all of a sudden in March, is running around the house. And, Kristen's sending me all these videos. I'm going, I look at my wife and she's going, all right, I'm with you tomorrow. If we go, we go. So I want to do that, and unfortunately I can't do that and do this at the same time.
Well, I better not see you pop up on any Phoenix Suns broadcasts or anything.
No, I don't think so. They have Al McCoy. Al's been out there like 1,000 years anyway.
I mean, tell me about that. What has that been like? Because there have been long road trips. You've been able to sneak out there. Like, how much has that changed your life, having that granddaughter now?
Oh, totally upside down. Yeah. I mean, and again, if she were living in Quincy, be a very different story. I don't think I would be in a hurry to leave. I'd want to say, let me stick around and see whether or not they can win a championship. But again, when I did look at a calendar, the other thing is my wife says to me all the time, she said, you got to start telling people your real age. And I said, what do you mean? I said, I'm 75. And she said, no, that's the problem. You're not 75. And you haven't been 75 for 2 years, going on 3. So I'm like, well, who cares? What's the number?
I want to go back to, you said that it's so funny because the teams of the 80s were so good. You and Scal were talking about 79-3 and those championship years at home, like when you were just calling the home games. When did you finally feel like, all right, they might keep me around for a long time? When you're working on one-year deals at all that time?
Yeah, it was good for me that I had something else. It wasn't like I was working on one-year deals and didn't have anything else. I was doing the Big East. Yep. The Big East was huge. And I became a much better broadcaster, A, by doing Big East basketball, doing college basketball at that level, and B, the Ray Allens of the world and all these people that are doing the Big East for 4 years, because people stayed for a long time in those days, I would have to go to the pros, and I knew them well by the time I got to the pros. So sometimes now I look at the turn on the NCAA tournament, I have a clue who's going out there. And who will be the good draft pick. I mean, I know the big guy obviously is going to go pretty high in the draft. Certainly played well the other night, really got dusted. So again, I don't know, there might have been a little difference if Kristen was around here, but she's not, and she's happy out there, and that's where she wants to live the rest of her life, where she wants to raise her family, and so that's where Pop's going to show up.
I mean, good golfing weather, not the worst.
It's right.
It has some benefits.
Probably she's in Duluth or something, so I might have a different feeling.
All right, I want to go real way back now. There was a great clip we ran in that program where you talked to Larry Bird and you said, do you remember the first time you picked up a basketball? Do you remember the first time you picked up a microphone?
Yeah, I was in the military, and we used to have these meetings every Monday mornings, these AOMs, and I got there's about probably 50 people at the meeting, all officers, because we were a squadron, and they made me the MC of these meetings, and so I used to get up and have to tell them about what this meeting's going to happen today, those guys in the BB-44, you got to get you up to schedule, blah, blah, blah. And so I would have a mic in my hand for a long period of times. And there was this guy who was one of the guys also in the squadron. And he had been a weekend anchor person before he got drafted and got hooked into being in the Navy. And he said, you should be on TV. He said, you have a nice comfort level with the microphone.
Had you thought about it at all?
No.
Wow.
No, I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought I was going to probably I would have ended up being a high school teacher of some way, shape, or form, and hopefully being a basketball coach. That would have been good. I wanted to stay close to the game, and then I got into college, and I didn't have any left hand. Everybody realized it right away, and that was the end of that dream. You know, I could beat the Dale. I'd tell you you're going right, but if you didn't catch on, if you overplayed me on the right, that was the end for me. a lot of charge block calls.
So we know some of the path. You were great on the NBC talking about how you knock down the door of Gil Santos and like get that meeting. But you start on radio, like the difference going from radio to TV is quite a change. Like you're describing everything to the ability to let it breathe. How did that transition go for you? Did it take you a while to get comfortable?
Again, right place, the right time. I'm working as a sports guy on WPRO radio, and I had this guy, Salty Bryan, that was his name. He really had a wonderful relationship with everybody. He listened to Salty. Salty's numbers, literally, if you know what radio numbers like, were in the 60s. He had a 60 share. I mean, he just owned the audience.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay? So there's a guy named Mark Haynes who called me one time. And do we have time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm doing the morning news at WNBH in New Bedford, giving the fish prices, which was the big part of the news, because what had it cost was a big deal in New Bedford. So I'm giving the fish prices one morning. I get off, and the phone rings, and this guy goes, he says, "Hey, I'm just coming through town. You don't sound too bad. My name is Mark Haynes. I run newsroom at WPRO in Providence. How would you like to become our New England correspondent?" I said, "That's great. I'll do it. I'll give 2 weeks' notice. I can be here in 2 weeks." He goes, "Whoa. He said, don't you give anybody any notice. What I want you to do is I want you to rip the AP wire every morning. And if there's a fire in Worcester, I want you to read it at the end and say, 'In Worcester, I'm Mike Gorman for WPRO News.' And then if the next one is a burglary and banks on fire in Portland, Maine, I want you to read it. And I want in Portland, Maine, I'm Mike Gorman for WPRO News." So I say, "Mark, I'm confused a little bit. I couldn't be in those two places at once." And there was just this silence, and the voice goes, "I'm going to make this offer one more time," and that's it. So I get it, okay? And he says to me, "If you take this offer," he said, "I guarantee you the program director will be so impressed with how fast you get around," because he's clueless anyway, "how fast you get around, he'll offer you a job." And he did, you know? And so I'm the public affairs director for Providence, PRO in Providence, which means if you have a radio license, you have to have a certain amount of public programming, you have to get on the air. Someone has to be responsible for it. That was me. I had to pick it up every week. So I'm doing that, and I'm getting all these people, and I'm farming this programming out to God knows these organizations. I never knew what they said. They just give me the tape back. I'd throw it on the air 5 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And so we do that, and I said to Mark one day, I said, "Let me do the sports. Salty doesn't like sports. He butchers them. You know, when he reads the scores, he gets them backwards and upside down and everything else, and he doesn't care." So Mark goes to Salty, and Salty says, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, let's try it." Well, Salty and I just hit it off. He became like a surrogate father to me. And so my 2 minutes grew to 3 minutes, grew to 5 minutes, grew to 8 minutes in the hour. And all of a sudden, one morning he goes, "We just call this the Salty and Mike show from now on." You know, and that was a big blow in Rhode Island, a big thing in Rhode Island, because Salty had been so big. So that got me going in the right direction. So I'm doing that. And the anchor guy at Providence, at WPRI, gets a job in Florida, okay? And he gives the notice on Friday and says, "See ya, I'm not coming in on Monday." So they take the weekend guy, they push him up right away to the regular guy. And this Dave Pierce, the director, comes to me, news director, he said, "Do you think you could do weekend sports? I should do one day. I can get this other guy to do 6." I said, "Yeah, I can try." So I do it, he liked it. Literally 2 months later, this guy gets a job, I'm now doing the one, he gets a job in Chicago. He leaves to Chicago the same way. So now I am on from 6 to 10 every morning with Salty, and then I'm doing the sports 7 days a week at 7 and 11. And that, people got to know me fast.
Plus you were everywhere.
I was.
Portland, Maine.
Exactly.
Right, you're reading these.
I had a little MG. I did good things. I'll tell you a funny story. I think this is a good story. My wife told me she shouldn't tell this story. So I'm down in Newport one night, maybe a month on the job. It's a weekend in Newport. I'm down with a bunch of people. We make some new friends down there, and I end up sleeping at somebody's place that night. I'm supposed to be at work next morning at 6, okay? I wake up, it's 6:45, all right? So now this is the day again, there's no cell phones or anything like this. So I went and I jump in my car, I start riding to the radio station. It was about a 30-minute drive from Newport, maybe a little shorter at that time of the morning. So I'm speeding up the highway, and at the time I had an MG convertible. I get the top down the convertible. I'm trying to get up there as fast as I can. And to Salt, he says, I hear him say on the air, if you see this convertible coming down the road, flash your headlights, you know. So all of a sudden, because headlights flashing. Every time I go by somewhere, headlights are flashing, you know. So Salty keeps saying, I think he's getting closer. We're seeing lights on the horizon and all this happy stuff, right? So I get there and I come running in. I'm there in time for the 9:10 report. I'm supposed to be on the air at 6, okay? So my shift ends, the 10 o'clock news comes up, and this lady opens the door who I'd never seen before, and she says, Mr. Rackerban would like to see you. Rackerban being the guy who's in charge of the whole thing, okay? I said, okay. So I walk into Rackerban's office. He looks at me. He points to a chair. He's on the phone. He points to a chair. So I sit down in the chair, and I have to wait like 3 minutes till I hear this guy on the phone. He hangs up the phone. He turns around, and he says, quote, I can't quote you exactly. He said, but that was great blank that you did this morning. You got any good ideas? Any more ideas like that? We got to do that again, okay? So now I'm getting paid to be late.
You scammed the system. You figured out like how to do it.
I did figure it out.
Did they ever send you back out, like any more flashing headlights at you? Or?
No, we waited about a month, and then we did do something that was related like that, and they couldn't find me. I think we were out in the water, actually.
I mean,
Rhode Island being the water state.
Most people who end up in Newport end up there longer than they expect. So, you know, it's a great spot.
Great city.
And so how does the transition happen? How do you then go from that to...
So now I'm doing 6 and 11 o'clock news sportscasts on the 6 and 11 o'clock news. We finally hire a guy to do the weekends, and I am now, but because I've been doing so much, I got to know Mike Tranghese, who is the sports information director at Providence College, who is Dave Gavitt, who was the head coach. We're up in Olean, New York one night. They had just beaten St. Bonaventure. We were in all night dining, getting something to eat. I'll never forget it. Tranghese looked at Dave and he said, Dave, tell Mike what you're thinking about and see what he thinks. And Dave tells me that he'd been to the ACC tournament the last 2 years. He saw no reason we couldn't do something like this in the Northeast that they had down there. He could put it in bigger buildings, Madison Square Garden, had the whole thing all wrapped up in a bundle. I said, how you doing? He said, last week I came back on a flight from Europe with John Thompson and Coach Conaseca, Lou Conaseca. And he said they both agreed that they would do it if I could get somebody else. Gary Williams came on board at Boston College. They didn't take Connecticut enough. They took Seton Hall instead. There's a big PJ connection in New York there. And the Big East became the Big East. And so they hired Len Berman to do the play-by-play. I was really pissed. And Dave's like, he said, wait. He said, can you do a pregame, halftime, and postgame show? We'll get your name out there. People know you are. We'll move you in eventually. I said, okay. So I took, you know the things like they have in a mall, those kiosks?
Yeah.
Okay, I had a portable kiosk that's fit, and I had an MG at the time that fit. It was like my passenger lived beside me in the passenger seat. I would drive that to every game, set it up myself somewhere outside in the lobby of where the game's being played, and I'd do my own pregame, halftime, postgame show by myself, and put it back in the trunk, go back to the next game. But it worked because all of a sudden people saw me all the time. And then I never know what, I think Len just decided he didn't really want to do it anymore. I don't know what it was, but Dave gave to me and got me on the regionals for 1 year. And there's one story I can't tell you because they get too upset, but I'll tell you off there. And you'll
okay, all right.
Okay.
You don't have to ask me after in public. If you see me, Celtics Talk listeners can come find me.
Yeah. But anyway, so he got me in. I started doing that. Big Monday came along. I got the job at ESPN to work with Bill Raftery. And then that was the best 2 or 3. I think I did 3 or 4 years with ESPN. We were doing the Maui Classic. I mean, me and Raf. We were playing golf until we were 10 minutes before we had to go on the air. It was just wonderful. Life was really good in Hawaii. So I did that for 3 or 4 years. And then the Celtics came to me, and it was just as things were starting to go downhill here. They came to me and they said, would you be interested in doing all the games? I said, yeah, I sure would. And they said, what about the Big East? I said, well, they definitely would take second place. I mean, I'm Dorchester. I want to do this place. I want to be the voice of the Boston Celtics. Even if it's for a year, I want people to think of me that way. So
so then you get 43 out of it.
I did. I just wouldn't go away.
I found in this business that's what you have to do in order to stick around.
Yeah.
And just like they never ask you to leave, you just keep doing it. So I go back to the security thing. So like year 8, are you thinking, okay, maybe I will be the voice of the Celtics for 40 years, or did you really? Even with the other with the Big East and all that stuff, like did you ever get comfortable?
Oh, I get comfortable. Oh, yeah, that wasn't a problem at all. My wife would say I would get too comfortable. Yeah, I just want to do basketball.
Yeah.
And the rest of the year, I'd go to golf tournaments, and people invite me, I'd go play golf. Yeah, I never really wanted to do anything else. I mean, some guys, like, I look at the Iron Eagles of the world, and they want to do every sport. They want to be on the NFL, and God bless them, they're good at what they do. I think he's exceptional, actually, at what he does. I was very happy then. By the time the 80s rolled around, not the 80s, the 8-9 team. Yeah. Yeah, the 8-9 team was doing its thing. That's when I decided I can do this. I don't need to do anything else. And I've never been driven really by money. So I liked where I live. I had a nice house in the water in Westchester County on a lake. And we lived in Newport. My wife and I lived in Newport when we first got married for about 5 years, 6 years. Then we lived in the middle of Manhattan when she was one of the founders of the WNBA. Got involved with that. So we had a house down there then. So, but when the basketball season was over, I was ready to wait for the next one.
I mean, look, you pick some good spots to hide away.
Yeah, I know. I see. I do. I mean, knock on wood. Yeah.
Look no further than the award-winning 24 Auto Group. With over 2,600 vehicles in stock, the brands you love, backed by the savings and service you can count on. Visit today or shop online at 24autogroup.com.
Let's talk about just developing your style. And one of the things, and it's a weird thing to say to a play-by-play guy, is one of the things I think you're great at is the silence.
Thank you.
Right? Because, and especially in this era now where it's information overload and people feel like they need to talk through everything, you've always found the way to let it breathe. And I think that magnifies the moment.
Thank you.
Where does that come from?
Laziness, probably. No, I've always believed less is better. No matter what you're doing in life, I think less can always be better if you do it properly. And I felt that games are getting suffocated, so I'd always tell guys that I would work with, and Tommy would be the exception more to this, because Tommy spoke whenever he wanted to speak. But Scal took to this very well, is pretend there's another guy, an invisible guy in the booth, and give him a chance to say something, in which nobody else can hear, obviously. And they tell us some guys, and they go like, who's the guy in the booth? No, there is no guy in the booth. We're creating this person. And he's going to be silent a lot of the time, and that's going to be nice. We're going to hear sneaker squeaks. We're going to hear people yelling and stuff like that. It's not going to be a constant. I mean, I listened to some people over the last couple of nights in the playoffs, and they're good guys, and I know them all, and I like them all, and they're all talented. But geez, they should just shut up. I don't need to know all this information right now. I really don't.
Just the roar of the crowd to me is so alluring. It's like it tells the story of what's happening on the court, and especially in a visual medium, you don't need to describe everything to me that's going on.
You get a good director. I've had a wonderful director for 30 years in Jim Edmonds. You get a good director who knows when the moment strikes, he knows what he's going to do. Get out of his way. Yeah. Just get out of his way. The pitches speak for themselves. Radio, totally different story. Sean has to create a lot of things that I don't have to do. And so that makes some people say, well, Sean talks a lot. Well, you got to talk a lot.
He has to, right?
Yeah, you do. But I found that less is better. I really and truly believe that. And you make less mistakes, less is better.
All right, when you have had non-invisible third people in the booth, there was the years with Kuz. Yep. There was, even just special guests when, Tommy was out. We
went through that period of 2 or 3 years where it was like musical chairs.
Right? So, who stood out amongst that group? Who did you really enjoy working with? What are some of the more... Was it just always, I guess it's hard to top Tommy and then even Scal when he comes along, but who did you like having in there to work off you guys as well?
I wish we could have got Bill Raftery up here, which is what we tried to for a long time. But he was now making great money from Fox out on the West Coast. Jackie McMullen was good to work with because of her knowledge. And she knew the game as well as the personality. Some people know the games very well. Some people knew the personalities well. She knew both. P.J. Carlesimo was a guy who I think could have made a nice career for himself if he had concentrated more on announcing than on basketball, but he wanted to coach, and he wants to be a coach. And once the guy gets that bug, you might as well not change it. Who else I work with on the NCAAs? George Raveling, I did a site with. He was a wonderful guy. That's the second story I can tell you off the air.
The bonus part of this podcast is going to be so much better than the actual pod.
Those are names that immediately come to mind. I don't. So somebody, Ronnie Perry. Ronnie Perry was really good. I never understood why the networks couldn't see past. I don't know. He was the last guy cut by Bill Fitch. He was a very, very good baseball player. I mean, played my high minor leagues in the baseball. And was a delightful kid. I mean, you could not meet a nicer guy than Ronnie Perry. And he had that basketball attitude that most of the good ones were, which was, we'd be standing there before a game and some guy would come down and say, Ronnie, I know you don't meet me. But I was a senior when you were a freshman at Holy Cross, and I played for Assumption, and so played against you that night. And Ronnie's like, oh, yeah, fine, nice to see you. And the guy would walk around, and I said, do you know who that guy was? No, he said, oh, yeah, I got 42 off him. Oh, yeah, he remembered every shot. He had like 31 at the half. He said, no, they wouldn't let me play anymore. And the good ones can do that. Mm-hmm. They can pull a game out of nowhere, you know?
I do not have that gift.
I would love to have that because, I don't say it goes in one ear and out the other, but it's close. It's close.
One of the clips we also ran during the special, which, by the way, if you're listening to this beforehand, the Gorman special runs Friday night on NBC Sports Boston, leading up to the game against Charlotte, one of his final two broadcasts. As part of that special, we were talking. I was watching. We did a thing about your style through the years. I told you I love that green prism jacket. I can't believe you don't have any of those.
No, we don't have any of those. No, I finally won the tireless routine. That took me a long time to break that.
I mean, Sunday is the Masters, so green jackets are back in style. I think if you want to bring this thing full circle, you think about maybe bringing back that green jacket.
Probably won't, though, Chris.
When did were you ever cognizant of? Because I feel like not a lot of announcers have that style. You bring it.
Thank you.
When did it become a thing for you?
Well, it's always been a thing for me.
Okay.
I always kind of like pay attention to what I look like.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta.
Some announcers don't.
Oh, I know. I know. Some need some real work. Some are wearing the same thing I saw them had done 20 years ago. But who am I to criticize? It's their ball game now, not mine.
True. I'm just following your path. Like your glasses, the outerwear. Like I'm very jealous of everything. Yeah. Well, the hair. I mean, when I see those old clips, I sit there and say maybe I need to switch things up a little bit.
You look like Harvey on Suits.
My wife loves that show, so I'll ask her if that is a compliment.
You don't watch it?
I do not watch it. Is it good?
Oh, it's really good.
Okay.
It's really
I think
it's bingeable.
Well, that's the thing. I think she's pretty deep into it, so I'll have to ask if she'll rewind for me and let me.
She probably will, because there's a lot goes by fast. And there's a lot of. I have two friends who are lawyers, and big power lawyers in New York City, and I said, "Is there anything close to the truth here?" And they both said at the same time, "Yeah, we never go to trial. We always settle."
Always settle, right? Always settle.
So that's what this is about. Is about relationships that come out with settling. I settle with you, but you want more. You want this deal better than that deal. So that's really what it all comes down to. But yeah, it's terrific. It's a great show.
Tell me about. So that's what I want to get into to sort of, because again, you're going to get asked all about the normal stuff. What is Mike Gorman like away from the court? What are you watching? Like, what do you do in the spare time? Now that you're going to have more spare time, what is something you haven't been able to do besides more time with the granddaughter that you'll be able to finally invest in?
That's number one priority.
Yeah.
Is to do that. I read a lot, I think, compared to most guys. Mostly nonfiction. I'm working on a screenplay, which I want to work. I started to work on a book.
Can you give us some details? Like
no.
what? No. Okay. The autobiography of Life on the Road with the Boston Celtics.
No, it's funny. Oh no, it was. I heard Gary Tanguay actually on Fred the other day on the show, and he said. Gary said at the end, he said, "I'm having writer's block. I'm having a hard time finishing." And I said, well, "That's okay, because I'm having a hard time beginning." It was silence. I thought it was fairly decent.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't want to write a nonfiction. Yeah, I've seen enough books about locker rooms. I don't want to deal with that kind of crap. But I want to take you, I want to take Scal, I want to take Tommy, and fictionalize you guys.
Ooh.
And then write a story around that.
Make me so much cooler than I am in real life.
Maybe uncool too.
You could have just said yes. So what else? I've seen pictures of your living room, guitars.
Yes.
So okay, give me the rundown of what you got.
What I got a really nice Gibson that Bob Dylan once allegedly used.
Ooh.
I've got a Fender regular Stratocaster.
When did that become a thing?
I had a classical guitar I bought in Spain, a little village. Unfortunately, I left it in the heat and it cracked in the back. I'm sick about that. Because it was really inexpensive. And I'd show it to people and they'd go like, wow, that's an expensive guitar. People who knew guitars.
Yeah.
I'm going, oh, I got a great deal here. Anyway.
Reason to go back.
Well, yeah, reason to go back. That's right. I love Spain. Spain's a great place. Great place. In fact, I may introduce you to Samuel, who's a friend of mine, is flying tomorrow from Madrid to Boston to be here for Sunday's game.
All right.
Yeah, so he's a good guy.
Nice.
So yeah, I probably will, the little typical stuff that people always say, we'll travel, but we will travel because my wife is, her business is growing and now she's dealing with clients in London. So that's a first. She's got clients outside the United States, so we're going to go ahead. I'll be right behind her. I'll be the guy with the golf sticks over.
Yes. Not the worst. Like,
no,
so golf clubs on one arm, guitar bag on the other, and off you go.
Grandchild of mine.
With one of the carriers or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, you joke, but I see a lot of people posting videos of the strollers, but they have golf club holders on it.
Oh, really?
And you can take the child out on the course. I wish I had known this when I was going through when my kids were much younger. We had one guy who used to bring his kid out and just throw him in a sand trap and they're building sand castles. The kid was having a great time. So I'm just saying, just get creative with it.
That's right.
Did you ever play guitar?
No.
You just like?
Well, I do. I'm trying to learn how to play the guitar right now. I take lessons from one guy down in Rhode Island and another guy up here. I want to. You don't want to hear this stuff.
No, they do. People, this is what else. People are. We have heard the stories about your career. I need to know more about the man before you ride off into this.
I want to be able to sing and play for my granddaughter.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay.
What would you play? Like, what would you go to?
Something heavy metal. No.
I thought this podcast was just going to go in a whole nother direction.
No. It's something. Clouds by Judy Collins. I don't know, something like that. More along those lines, You
were talking. I remember one of the segments with Jrue.
I'm an old folk singer in a coffee shop kind of thing.
Yeah. You were talking about going to the Rolling Stones back in the day. So
I'm going to go see the Stones this summer. Yeah, here's a great tip if you're going to see the Stones. This comes from somebody who paid big money to get seats.
Yes.
And she couldn't get over the fact how the whole concert, how horrible they looked. They're just debauched from 1,000 years of doing this.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying it's bad, but that's just a fact. But she said musically, they're great.
Yes.
So she said, if you go to a place that has a great speaking system, like in Shea Stadium or Fenway Park, go get the cheap seats way back.
You'll hear it better through,
It'll be great.
Interesting.
See them long distance with some glasses. But she said she was in a pit. She said, I was there for maybe, I don't know, half hour. And she was like, there you go. I had to leave. I can't let this podcast get out anywhere now that I think about it. No, because, what's his name? You know the names also. It's Mick Jagger, drummer who just died. I think.
Ronnie, no, why am I mixing this up? Keith Richards, Mick Jagger. We're gonna have to Charlie Woods. Is that right?
Yeah, Charlie something Woods.
No, I'm thinking of the Tiger Woods kid. Masters is this week, and my head's everywhere. But yeah.
Anyway, that's a tip on that. Unlike if you want to go see who I think is coming back again, and it's just so good as Billy Joel.
Yes.
You want to be as close as you can, because he's constantly going back and forth with the first 10 rows of everything. And to watch him play and sing and do what he does he's remarkable.
Would you have a request to shout out for Billy Joel? Would you because is he taking requests from the crowd, or is he?
Would I shout out the crowd?
Yeah.
No.
Just saying, I'm trying to think of what I'm sure he plays all the hits.
And if you shouted out and were with me, I'd look away, turn my back before they got a shot of you on screen, because I don't want to be part of this.
All right, let me try to get this back on track.
You can't do that.
You won a Tommy Award.
Teeny little writing. You read it? Can I say?
Yeah, go ahead.
My gosh.
So I thought about you and Tommy when I was writing this out, because I remember the famous story of ripping it up.
Yeah.
And I said, I would like to say I barely looked at it, sometimes just to keep myself on track, even though clearly that hasn't helped. You did win a Tommy Award.
For?
At one point, you won, you guys gave it. I'm trying to see if you remembered.
No, I don't. Did he really give one to me?
Yeah, I gave one to you. This was during the lean years where, wins were far few.
Paul Lucy's in the truck going, yeah, I'll take that idea. Sure. Throw that on.
I mean,
will that kill 20 more seconds?
You guys gave it to Santa Claus at one point. Like random fans were winning it. Like there was
random fans. We did give it to some random fans. I remember that for a while. We were just trying to keep it alive.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to do our bit. They were most of the guys were trying out in the court. I won't say all of them were, but most of them were. So we tried to have most of the booths also doing the same.
Nice.
Guy who never missed a game, Dick Light.
Oh my God,
it's
on the card.
Okay.
I need the Dick Life story.
So
I know, obviously, I'm familiar with the legend of Dick Life, and it's grown, and it's like, it's amazing that he's in this huge spotlight now.
He is, which is good.
Which is well deserved.
Sure,
I consider myself a stats guy. I'm stealing half of his stuff now.
I'm about 3/4 he gives me.
But how did it start?
I'm walking down to go. You remember the gondola hang over the old Boston Garden? That's where we used to broadcast from. So I'm going down there my first night on the job in Fenway Park, in Boston Garden. And I said, I'm thinking about throwing out the first ball. It's always in the back of my head that I throw a ground ball. It's not going to be good.
You'll be fine.
I do a curve.
Yeah, exactly. That's what all the guys. I gave them no more fastballs now. Everyone throws curveballs.
Oh, really? Okay.
In the major leagues, like that's why kids' arms are falling off or something. So Dick Life, you're walking down the.
So I'm walking down the stairs to put my stuff around, sit in the garden, and I see this guy, and this guy's sitting there, obviously ensconced in his position. And I said, "Hi, I'm Mike," and he says, "I'm Dick," and I said, I'm doing the games here tonight. I think he's going to go, oh, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I know you are. And he said, I used to do the stats for Roger Twibel, who was the guy before. And he said, I was hoping maybe I could do them for you. I said, all right, let's try it, see what happens tonight.
43 years later.
43 years later. 4 hours later, I'm going like, what's your name again? Light? You want me to call you before every game, send a card over for you?
Was he there? So did he literally
just so friggin' good.
He's so good. Did he ever? I know he's had to take a couple of days off because like Bentley responsibilities.
It's a real job.
Yeah, it's a real job.
Yeah.
But I mean,
and the game is no good without him. Really. Talk about having a third man.
Vital to the process.
It's like 6 guys extra in the booth we all give it because there's nothing to talk about because there's no dick notes in front of you. And he hands you stuff. See,
how much of it do you use?
90%.
Yeah.
And he hands you stuff that's relevant to what is just happening.
Right.
He doesn't just give you Seltzer now 8 for 16 from the floor. He'll go Seltzer 8 for 16, 3 for 4 beyond the arc, 2-turner. I mean, just see, and all this stuff comes up. Seattle just constantly is going like he's shaking his head. He wants to get it in, he can't get it all in. He's so good. He's just it's been fun to see a lot of the great people. Larry Bird. You see the people who are really great at what their task. If there was a sports information director, statistician, Hall of Fame, first guy in. First guy in.
Let's end on this. What do you think of this year's team? Are they going to send you out with the proper send-off with a...
I would love that. I'm selfishly, I would love that.
Do you tell them that? Because I'd be sitting there on the sideline screaming at them, being, hey, just a reminder, we're wrapping this thing up.
Right. No, I haven't done that. In fact, it's funny. I wish I was closer to this team. But when you don't travel with the team, that's where the relationships are all. And I never, it's funny, he told me one time early on, he said, don't go to shoot-arounds and just be confused. I said, okay. I don't think I've been to a shoot-around in,
you're not missing much.
Yeah. So, again, I don't feel the same closeness I felt with Paul Pierce, with Ray Allen, with those guys, Rondo. But they're a joy to watch. They're ultimately skilled. Very, very skilled. They're 2 practically unstoppable guys, and the 2 Tatum and the other guy,
Tatum Brown.
Yeah, like Tommy. Tommy always used to forget the names. How could you forget the names, Tom? Now I'm going like, who's that guy?
The Jason and Jalen. I conflate them all the time. It's very difficult.
You can erase some of it, though. I can't.
True.
I can't. Anyway.
But you love Porzingis too, right? Like.
Oh yeah, Inspector Gadget. That's what he is. Yeah.
Those arms.
It does. They just go all over the place. They go where he wants them to go. Not necessarily pretty, but they get there. And I love him. I mean, because he's having such a good time playing the game. He plays with joy.
Refreshing.
Yeah, and that's really cool. That's really cool.
So I was saying.
The team. How far can the team go? I think Tillman's might be a best pickup. We're talking about him in the playoffs because he gives us size, gives some bulk along the front line. It doesn't seem like he's afraid to hit anybody. And it's going to be one playoff game that's going to be very physical, and people are going to be beating each other all over the court. We need a guy who can throw out there at his size and weight, who can contribute. Because otherwise, we have great shooters coming off the bench. But if I were to say, who's the tough guy in this team?
Yeah.
Who is the tough guy? I don't know who he is. It was Smart, obviously. I'm not saying that they'd make a great trade for Marcus. He was my favorite player, and I miss him. But I understand why they did what they had to do. But I think they got the shooting they wanted. They got some of the defense they wanted. They got a lot of things out of it. I don't think they got the nastiness back. And I think that's one thing we need.
I mean, and that's the question. Can you be finesse and the offense has been amazing. Yeah. But can you do that in the playoffs when you start going up against teams that are very good defensively? And
teams that have good coaches who, if you get them on the second night of a back-to-back in February, it's a different story than if you get 4 games with them or 7 games with them potentially in the playoffs. That after a while they kind of figure out, well, maybe we can take this guy out of this game a little bit and how you react to it. Joe's been wonderful. I think I'm a huge Joe fan. I think he's going to be a long-time coach of the Celtics because he's been able to manage a roster that potentially could be a nightmare of egos.
Are you ready for Sunday?
No, I'm really not.
Fair answer.
I guess I will be when we. On Sunday,
you have no choice.
Yeah, I have no choice. I hope to. I don't know whether she'll cooperate with Kenzie. That's my granddaughter. I'm hoping that maybe if they have me like out there in a chair or something like that, I would grab her and put her on my lap and have her sit there. Because then I will have a distraction. And I won't sit there because, as my wife said, you cry in Zillow commercials. So you got to be real careful out there. She's telling me all the time, you got to be careful about this. I'm like, I'll be fine. She goes, you won't be fine.
At least she knows you.
It's just a degree of how unfine I'll be.
It doesn't make it any easier knowing that we're going to have that celebration, but there's still games after that. So that we'll still have a little bit of...
Right. That's the moment that frightens me. Yeah. The moment when there's 60 seconds left in Game 5 of the playoffs, Celtics are up by 15, getting set to move on, and I know that my last words are coming out on the air in the next 60 seconds. I honestly can tell you I don't have any idea what I'm going to say.
I was going to say, you don't seem like the type that would prepare necessarily for that, but I guess you have to have something. You don't want to miss that opportunity to leave us with something. I
can have Sean write it for me.
he's the king of it.
He is.
And
he's very good.
He's very good at it. I mean, but, what do you want to impart in that moment? What do you want to leave people with after all this?
I hope it's been fun.
It's been a blast. Yeah, it's been too much fun.
I hope it's been fun. I hope people have had a chance to... Again, we were always guessing. You got to think of yourself being a guest in somebody's house for 2.5 hours, and you can't come in and be negative. You got to be positive most of the time, and you got to be funny occasionally. Tommy said, if we don't get him laughing 2 or 3 times a game, we're failed. Yep. And he was good at it. He was getting at least 2, and he knew it.
And then you got your 2 quiet ones in there.
Yeah, but he knew what he was doing when he would. Mess up onto the compo's name. I mean, he wasn't, because he didn't mess it up by missing one of the syllables. He missed all of them. Wasn't even close to what it was supposed to be. So, and that was the beauty of Tom. I mean, he used to have this one joke about we had this one dispute one time that was kind of hot and heavy, and but he would tell everybody now. He said when someone would ask him about that, he'd say, "We've had only one fight, and it's still going on." And he'd laugh like that because he loved that line.
Man.
He his own line. He loved it. But I know I don't. I'm not exaggerating. I miss him every day.
Yeah.
Every single day. Now we're in July and August, and I'm not doing this anymore. Might be every 2 or 3 days. But right now, with basketball being played and basketball being still a big part of my life, there were 1 or 2 times in the day where I wish I could just pick up the phone and say, "What do you think, T?"
I've told you this story before, but I just vividly remember one of my first sports memories is sitting on my living room floor at 9 years old, and a random game's playing. I'm not interested in it at all, but my dad was he was yelling at the TV because Charles Barkley was torturing the Celtics. But the only person that was more mad than my dad was Tommy. He was mad at the officiating, and the both of you, Tommy would just be give me a break, and then you would have a little quip about the officiating or whatever. And then my dad's blood pressure would come back down. And even that early on, he told me to appreciate every moment. And then it took me a while, but man, growing up here, I can't tell you what it means to just do this because you used to tell me, like, when I was at my last stop, you'd be like, we're going to work together. And I'd be like, you're crazy. And then it happened, and now I'm just trying to fumble my way through it.
Doing a good job. I'm proud of you.
You said a couple times, right place, right time. I think sometimes I'm just fortunate to be sitting right here. But here's my final pitch, and we're going to leave on this high note. You can't just go off into the sunset. We need you around here, right?
Yeah.
So we do this little podcast thing. You don't have to be, you can come in from Zoom. You can call in.
All right.
We check in future seasons. Like if it conflicts with nap time, or like maybe we line it up with nap time for the daughter and the granddaughter. Do we line it up for like
nap time for me?
Look,
I'm a big nap time.
I'm about to have 2 teenagers. I'm going to need a nap time. So, but like I need your voice to be still a part of this.
I hope it is.
Can I rope you in?
I hope it is. Yeah, you
can just lie for the camera.
Make me an offer. I'm wide open.
I'll see if I can get some of our company's money. Michael, thank you as always.
Okay, brother.
I'm not ready for this weekend. I hope
you
are.
You're doing a great job.
I appreciate that. Everybody, check out the special on Friday night. Go like, subscribe. Check us out on the YouTube page. I'm not ready for this weekend. We'll catch you next time on the Celtics Talk Podcast.